Okay, so not to be disrespectful to Mary or anything, because I loved her character. I do love Mary. She was very sweet. She was very intelligent. She was kind of a good match for Sherlock, and a good match for John. She was a good match for John romantically, obviously, but she was a good match for Sherlock as a friend because she was intelligent like he was, basically. I mean, she used to be an assassin, come on. But what people forget a lot of the time is that even though Molly is introverted and shy, she's also extremely intelligent. She's also very astute in what she discovers about people, what she knows about people. She's also very detail oriented. The reason I say that is because just because she's introverted, people don't think she's as smart as she really is. And she is very, very smart. I mean, she's a specialist registrar, forensic pathologist, to put it lightly. That takes a lot of schooling, a lot of smarts, a lot of intelligence, and just imagine how many men she had to beat out to get her position. So Molly is a tough cookie. Another thing that people forget is that, yeah, so Mary knew John, Mary knew Sherlock, they're her Baker Street boys, blah, 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 blah. They would go crime solving together, which is fun, while Molly would help out in the lab, obviously. But the thing that people don't remember is that Molly knew Sherlock even before John did. Molly knew Sherlock before John was in the equation. We don't know how long she's known him. I assume personally that she's known him as long as Greg has, because usually, in crime, if you're working with the morgue and you're working with New Scotland Yard, there's a connection there. So I'm assuming that she's known him as long as he's known Lestrade. But that could have been years and years and years before he met John. We know that she knew him before she met John, a long time before she met John, even though she was very, very, very shy still around him, because even in the very first scene that Sherlock was in, the very first scene he was in was also the very first scene she was in. And he asks her to text him with the results of the corpse that he beat with the riding crop. So she had his phone number already in his phone. It basically sets up a precipice of they're already texting each other back and forth, even if it's professional. So as much as Mary knew Sherlock and as much as Mary knew John, Molly knows Sherlock more. I mean, she's known him years and years and years and years and years and years before Mary knew him, and years before John knew him, which not a lot of people pay attention to that. I don't think they really give it much thought. I know some people give thought to how long Greg has known Sherlock, but that's why I think that Molly has probably known him just about as long as Greg has, maybe a little less or maybe a little more, but probably around the same time that he met Greg, he met Molly. So that's just my theory. But we do know that she knew him before John did. So, I mean, to wrap up, so as much as Mary knows him and John, they're also Molly's Baker Street boys, pretty much. And I think it goes without saying that John is pretty ignorant to the fact that they had a relationship before he was even around. That is shown by how much he thinks Sherlock loves Irene, which is pretty ridiculous because she was just a game. I mean, she was a challenge to him. Yes, he was intrigued by her. Yes, I think it was probably the first time that he felt, sexually attracted to someone. I think it just kind of took him by surprise because she was, traipsing around naked and stuff. But, John's, spectacularly ignorant to the fact that he doesn't love Irene. She was a challenge, and, she's also an intellectual match to him, which is pretty funny because there were three women who were an intellectual match for Sherlock, which was Irene, Molly, and Mary. And he communicates with them completely different. It's funny. I mean, it's great because we see the character development with Molly and how she was super shy and super eager to please, and she had this huge crush on him. And instead of keeping that as her weakness, they turned it into her strength. And she became a very strong person who can easily call him out on his flaws. I mean, she was doing that even when she was the shy, mousy Molly that we saw in the first episode. We do see that with the lipstick. She goes, "Oh, I refreshed it a bit." You know, she wasn't going to let him just tear her down without a rebuttal. She does this again when he says that Jim is gay. The second time that we see them in a scene together when he's supposed to be rude to her. She doesn't let him get away with it. She goes, "He's not gay. Why do you always have to spoil things?" You know, so people think she was really mousy and really submissive and really, just pining after him with no rebuttal. But she wasn't. She's never just let him walk all over her, ever. And we saw that from the first scene. She never lets him go without letting him know that he's saying something wrong or doing something wrong. And it only gets more intense the more confident she becomes. And I think that's what he wanted. I think that's why he egged her on so much, is because he wanted her to be a more confident person. And she did become a more confident person, and she became a more intriguing person and a more integral part of his Baker Street squad, as I say. Because, I mean, she has saved his life, just like John, on multiple occasions. Jim had some oversight as to knowing that Molly was more important. He didn't actually forget about her. That he would go to her to save his life, because if he honestly thought Sherlock was going to jump off of Bart's, he wouldn't have set up the Sharonford game with Eurus. Because there wouldn't have been any need. He would have been dead. But that's a part of my theory that I wrote on Tumblr as well. If you want the link, I can explain all of that to you. But I didn't mean to rant for so long, but my point is just that Molly knows Sherlock probably better than anyone. Even John, actually. Especially John. And I know a lot of people will be upset at me for saying that, but he points that out. He says, the person that learned to see through your bullshit long ago, unlike me. He knows. I mean, he knows that they have a history, one that he does not know about, one that he was not a part of, and clearly Sherlock's never spoken about that. But we do know that he has taken Molly to Angelo's at some point by her little quote from The Empty Hearse, when she asks him, after they solve the case together, if the chip owner, if Sherlock got him off a murder charge. The only reason she would know that story is if he had brought her to Angelo's at some point, and Angelo gave her the whole song and dance that he gave John, or if Sherlock kind of just sat her down and just randomly told her the story, which that doesn't seem probable to me. And as Sherlock says, once you eliminate the impossible, however improbable, must be true. So I believe that he also brought Molly to Angelo's at some point. I think that's just something he does when he wants to get to know somebody. He probably brought Greg at some point to get to know him. We don't really know. But I would love to see kind of the backstories, especially with Molly and Greg in season 5, whenever they get to do that. But I'm sorry for the rant. I know that I'm not the best public speaker. I'm kind of a 50-50 between Sherlock and Molly. I don't speak very well, but I can get my point across better in writing. But thanks for listening. If you have listened to this whole entire rant, which I don't bet a lot of people will, but so thanks. And again, if you want to read my theory on the foreshadowing leading up to the I Love You scene with Sherlock and Molly, just DM me. I'll send you the link to my big post, and I hope that I could connect the dots for you in a clear way, because as I said, I'm a better writer than a speaker. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this little viewing of mine, talking along with the final problem for my 70th viewing of it on my new TV. So that was exciting. Thank you. Bye.